My name is Jess Bean, she, they. I'm the Executive Director of the Fort Collins Mural Project. And then, yeah, a little more. Anyways, thank you for coming. So basically, we're Fort Collins Mural Project. We are a small local arts nonprofit. We hire emerging and underrepresented artists, not always both those things at the same time. A lot of our artists from underrepresented populations are actually very prolific muralists and amazing mentors to our fellow artists that are more emerging in the field. We just do grassroots fundraising, grant writing. That's how we end up beautifying your city every year. So a lot of the really cool murals and represented pieces and the more weird art is us. On the wall, so we do not do the electrical cabinets. We're not those people. That's art in public places, but they're still great. But I want to welcome tonight. Tonight we have Kim Mueller here from the Alliance of Suicide Prevention. Cool, welcome. I'll do our land acknowledgement real quick. Let's see. So. Fort Collins Mural Project acknowledges with respect that the land we are on today is traditional and ancestral homelands of the Arapaho, Cheyenne, and Ute nations and peoples. This was also a site of trade, gathering, and healing for numerous other Indigenous people. We commit to allyship, to listen and to learn from Indigenous people who lived sustainably with the land for thousands of years before colonization. And then about a year and a half ago, we spent some time outreaching to local Indigenous nonprofits. So our call to action there is a response from the local Indigenous nonprofits. So if you want to more than just acknowledge, but actually actively ally these organizations, definitely take a screenshot of that or head to our website. That is on our website full time. Yeah. And then over at the Alliance for Suicide Prevention, their mission is to prevent suicide in Larimer County through training, education, providing outreach, and offering support. They've done an amazing job. They work nonstop. I was just talking to Kim. I'm like, I'm sorry, this is late in the evening. She's like, I work all the time at this late in the evening and during the day. Yeah. They had some really great numbers where they were able to get suicide rates down by about 25% here in Larimer County. It has unfortunately started to go back up with everything going on in the world right now. So more than ever, this work and support of this work is very important. And I will pass the mic over to Kim.
Thanks. Hi, I have to move around. I turn that off. This can just go to over there. Okay. Hi, I am Kim Mueller. I use she, her pronouns. I am honored to serve as the Executive Director of the Alliance for Suicide Prevention. As Jess said, our mission is to prevent suicide through training and education, providing outreach, and offering support. So we do that through 5 program areas: adult education, youth education, peer support, grief support, and community outreach. And this is community outreach. So oftentimes when I tell people I work in suicide prevention, they will look at me with like so much pity. They're just like, I'm sorry, right? And a lot of people think that our work is really like sad and depressing and hard and heavy. And the truth is, prevention is healing and hope and joy. And so we're here tonight, like this is my job. I'm getting paid to be here. Now while it's an evening hour, I'm still getting paid, right? And we get to partner with our community. We get to partner with local artists. We get to come out here and talk about ways that we open the conversation for mental health, because here's what I know to be true. When I'm wearing a suicide prevention sweater and somebody sees the word suicide on my sweater, I kid you not, I will be in the grocery store and somebody's gonna tell me the most intimate, deep, dark secret of their life. And I don't know them and they haven't told anybody in their family, but they're gonna tell me. Because when we talk about mental health, when we say the words, we make it okay for other people to do it. And so I'm really excited to hear about the muralists and how their work is inspired by mental health and how mental health inspires their work. And because what I know, I'm almost done because this isn't about me, I swear, is that when we talk about mental health And when we offer opportunities to for people to be witnessed and heard and listened to, we reduce stigma and we create connection. And when we create connection, we literally save lives. And so I'm really, really excited for this conversation tonight. So thank you so much for being here. I'm very excited. Before we start, you can all tell I need this, but I don't know if you need this. So we're gonna take a grounding breath, probably to release some of my crazy energy, okay? So if y'all just wanna take a breath on your own, I'll do it over here. You feel better? I do. Okay, great. All right, so without further ado, we are going to, I had a whole thing of opening remarks, and I'm just gonna, can I just go like this? This is okay, right? Thanks, Jess.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's fine.
You're fine.
I'm grown up. All right, I'm gonna start asking questions. Oh no, we need to do introductions. Hi, lovely humans. Let's introduce you. I can do my job. All right, why don't we start on the end right here, and why don't we just come on down the road? Do you have what you need in front of you for introductions? All right, go ahead and grab a mic and let's hear who you are.
Hi everyone, I'm Eileen. I use she, they pronouns. And my mural is specifically about the theme of gender euphoria. So, yeah.
Hello everybody, my name is Sofi Rami. My pronouns are she, her, and my mural is exploring friendship and community and radical authenticity.
Hello, my name is Zaida Sever. I use she, her pronouns. I do a lot of illustration and curation work. And my mural is of a tatted up Medusa because I recently started a small business celebrating reptile husbandry.
Yo, my name is Kaylee, pronouns she, they. My main medium is painting, but I'm also an educator, community organizer around social justice, mutual aid, and art. And artistically, my current focus is creating work that explores our tools for liberation and resilience, and then on a personal way, trusting myself and building my own power.
Hi everyone, my name is Connor Che, he, him. My mural here is about connection to place, cultural representation, and identity. A lot of my work, I also do smaller paintings like landscapes. Yeah.
I'm Jon Guerdrum. My pronouns are he, him. My typical work is tiny little watercolor paintings. I see a few familiar faces in the crowd, so this is a big stretch for me. It's like 1,000 times bigger than my usual art. This mural piece of mine is a representation of the balance of the mind and the heart, and how those two should always be pouring into each other.
Hello, I go by Bakemono, and he, him. My mural, I feel like anyone can take and make their own story about, what it is to them. For me, the main focus is around the semicolon, and basically me asking people to continue to stay. Yeah. My main focus with art is calligraphy art, and then I take that and try to stream it to whatever else I can make with it.
Thank you, everybody. That's great.
I'm gonna stand over here. How's that? So much better. Yeah. Okay. Our camera guy, like, lady, you don't know anything about art. You're like right in the front of the camera. It's fine. All right. As we talk tonight, this might bring up some feelings. That's okay. We like feelings here. They're welcome. All right. If at any point you need to step out. That's cool. Come back. Crying's okay. Laughing's even better. All right. All right. We're gonna jump into the questions. And I'm going to start with, what conversations do you hope your work will spark in the community? And I'm going to ask Jon this question.
Check. I'm going to get a little bit artsy on this answer. That's why we're here.
Yes.
I think honestly, any conversation is good. Art is all in the eye of the beholder, and I think that if someone's walking away in this alleyway, and even if that conversation is an inner dialogue of that's interesting, and they think about it again, I think it served its purpose. I've also found that, some, like, if you go to a movie and you hate the movie, you have a good conversation about like why you hated the movie, but it develops into something deeper. Even if someone walks by my piece of art and they're like, I don't know if that was my style, but let's talk about why I think that still accomplished the goal. So I think from my perspective, it's conversation, and it's more than just like a passing glance, then that's already a win.
Thank you. I love it. All right, Connor, what about you?
Yeah, so my mural, like I was saying, ties in with themes around identity and place. I'm hoping that for the Asian American community here in Fort Collins, they feel represented and seen in that way. For everyone else, I hope that it sparks a conversation around the ideas of what it means to be connected to place and culture. So just seeing that represented in different ways, I think can be really helpful for everyone.
I'll add a note that for those who don't know, connectedness is one of the primary protective factors in mental health. So when we feel connected to our community, but we feel connected to each other, it decreases our likelihood of increased mental health issues. Does that make sense? Thank you. So the next question I have is, do you consider your work a form of activism, storytelling, or healing, or something else entirely? John, I'm going to come right back to you.
Here I am again. This is a big growth thing for me. So, as I mentioned before, I do watercolor. Has anyone done watercolor? Raise your hand. Do you love watercolor? Usually not. I don't know why it's my medium. I chose it. You have to be on a flat surface. You're playing with chaos. You're trying to preserve whites versus bring that down at the end. So this was a conversation I had with my wife a while ago. She encouraged me to stretch and grow. This is an 18-foot by 15-foot piece that's house paint, spray paint, all sorts of things. So for me, this speaks to mental resilience. Yesterday I went through we were just talking about as a male, the artist bit of despair, where you're like, what am I doing? I don't know if this is going to turn out okay. You kind of have to muscle through that. And today I'm feeling much better. It's congealing. It's looking good. I'm proud of it. I'm much happier about like where it's going to be, and I can see this something that I would be very happy with. So for me, it's a lot of growth, a lot of resilience through the process, and trying something completely new and callable.
When you identify with marginalized communities, for myself, I'm first-generation immigrant from Colombian parents. I'm a woman and a neurodivergent. So it's just an act of taking up space and representing all of those communities as best as I can. And I think that the healing that comes through that, internally and externally, happens when we expand and deepen the humanity of the demographics that we exist in, that are so often, they become caricatures in the media, and people can easily dehumanize what they don't know. And so by reaching into radical authenticity and connection and sharing the stories and experiences of my family and my community, like you said, is how that healing works on both ends of points of connection that are being made.
Thank you so much. We talk so often in suicide prevention about people needing a witness to their pain. People need to be seen, they need to be heard, they need to know that their stories matter. And what a beautiful way to show your story and being here for other people's stories. Thank you. All right, let's talk about vulnerability. I love vulnerability. All right. What inspires you to explore mental health through your art? Ooh, that was rough. Through your art, Eileen.
Yeah, so for me, mental health and art have always been super closely connected. as a teenager, I went through a lot of very serious mental health challenges, and I was really bad at expressing myself with words. So for me, drawing was this form of like processing emotions, and doing so and reflecting on what I was going through. Like you said, I was sort of being my own witness, like seeing what was coming up and being like, oh wow, I could never have said that when I can draw it, and then I can reflect on what that meant coming out of me. And so for me, it was a really important way of being with really, really hard things.
Thank you. And so your answer, it reminded me when we're talking to youth, so we go into youth, we talk to like 5,000 youth a year, and we ask them, what do you want adults to know about teen mental health, or what it's like to be a teenager in our mental health? And the number one thing they say to us is, we wish adults were better listeners. Again, people want to be witnessed. Bakemono.
Bear with me, I might be a little all over the place. For me, so like in high school, I was really into like breakdancing, and that was my way of expression. I didn't know I was dealing with the issues I was dealing with in high school, so I was expressing it through like breakdancing. No words, it was just a movement, and it sufficed for that moment, you know. And then, yeah, things came crashing down for me. It was a very dark time, and had a pretty bad attempt, so, and after that, it was kind of this thing, everything was just too heavy for me. I couldn't do anything, and using my hands to create calligraphy was like basically all I had left. So the inspiration was basically, you either attempt again or try to find a way to take everything in this bottomless pit of Armageddon that is in your mind, and try to find a way to cycle it out of yourself. And for me, that's with words. And yeah, I could be inspired to, after having a bad day, just write fuck it, fuck this. And it's getting it all out. So my exploration with the mental health was kind of like forced, not like against my will. It basically goes hand in hand. My art is mental health.
Thank you. Thank you all for stepping into vulnerability and sharing your lived experience and giving us the opportunity to witness all of you and your stories. Thank you. What do you hope younger artists or creatives take away from your approach to vulnerability in art? Jon?
I think now, more than ever, the human experience in art is what makes art art. Sure, also play with image generators at some point, Snapchat, face overlays, or ChatGPT, like make my friend just look funny. I think there's a lot of fear around that devaluing of art, but in my opinion, it actually adds a lot of bright future for art, where it's the human expression of vulnerability, emotion, being human. That is why we all are artists, why we look at art. So I hope that the younger generation, with some of the more easy access of just rubber stamping images, will find higher value in something that is authentic and a representation of those things.
Thank you. Sophia, calling art. Oh, please. Yes.
So I was listening to a director I really like recently talk about the use of AI, and when you know, ChatGPT and Drawly or whatever the other one first started rolling out, I remember thinking of it as kind of like a party trick before the wave of the AI artist. It was kind of like, oh, it's a toy, it's something you can play around with, and then the very real, these big blow-ups online about what is it as a part regarding AI. And he pointed out the point that there is no vulnerability, there is no human expression, there is no joy or passion put into AI art, so they're not going to do it full time. Like a lot of us here, there's probably decades worth of experience of practice and failing and trying again, of finding our creative voice that's stable. AI artists, don't do that because they don't go through that process. You can't fail at something that you never had to put effort into, and kind of how that novelty is going to fade with a lot of people. And we're starting to see it now. But yeah, I think it is the vulnerability is something that truly separates like what is a craft from what isn't. And I think people are starting to pick up that even more quickly, because people who are just typing things and are like, all right, I came, I saw, I did it, it's not clown anymore. And we're never going to run into that when we're like, well, I'm the best I'm ever going to be, so I have no reason to keep going.
Thank you.
So right, all those points. For me, I think that I hope that young artists take away that when you imbue vulnerability into your work, it's a journey of self-discovery, and that's how you propel your growth, and you practice that radical self-acceptance, and you find that voice that is meant to connect with somebody else and potentially give them something that is going to help them survive whatever season they're in, or make them feel less alone. And if we aren't putting ourselves on the line through our work, then we can't offer that to other people. And so I think that is part of what that soulless quality that we've been discussing here comes from. And it takes a lot of honesty with yourself first, and also that's how long get beat spread, right? As you're saying.
Yeah, but thank you. Okay.
Try it on there.
Please, always.
So this is my first mural. Kudos to you guys, because all my art's like in a room by myself, prime environment, my studio, my little space, you know, my sanctuary. Doing murals is hard. Talk about vulnerable. I think I've heard the phrase like, do you have a permit from that? Like 5 times. So I want to add the point that I have so much respect for you guys who have done this many times, because when you're doing a mural, you are being vulnerable. You are on a wall, in public, in the elements, so kudos.
You got ready for your first one too?
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding us of that perspective. Thank you. All right, let's talk about mental health and responsibility in art. So the next question is, when you're creating work that addresses mental health, what considerations do you keep in mind, either for yourself, your subjects, or your audience? And Eileen, we're going to start with you for this one.
All right, so I'll talk specifically about the mural that I'm doing for this project. It's a collaboration with my friend Nico, who was the model for it, and they are trans and non-binary. So they were involved in photo shoots, choosing what they wanted to wear that made them feel comfortable in their gender. They were involved in picking colors, and for the artist statement, which will go with it, it's actually their own words about what gender dysphoria is for them. So I really like collaborating with people, especially people from the queer community, which I'm a part of, but they're experiencing even greater amounts of violence and just every that's going on right now, politically and just culturally, against trans and gender informed people. So I try really hard to be in integrity with my subject and all the ways. And then for the audience, it's really interesting because there's actually several different audiences. Whenever I'm starting a mural, that's one of the first questions I ask myself: who's my audience, and what do I want to communicate with them? And for me, the primary audience of this mural is queer and gender non-conforming youth. Not sure if you'll know, but queer people are 4 times more likely to attempt suicide. than the general public, so it is a huge issue in our community. And we hear a lot in the media about like negative portrayals of trans people or stories of about suffering or attacks, and the term gender dysphoria gets thrown around a lot, which is part of our people's experiences about our names. And so this mural is focusing on gender euphoria, which is basically like the light at the end of the tunnel once you have made it to the point where you're actually comfortable with your gender expression and feel safe and seen and accepted, and there's just like this radical joy at the end of a very, very difficult, unnecessarily difficult path.
I feel like you should mic drop. Be like, if that's not a suicide prevention, then I don't know what is. Thank you. That was beautiful. Zaida, tell us more.
I have a similar story when you get to the second question, and that's saying not just from a different marginalized community, but my experience with art, because when I think of my work that addresses mental health, I think of what am I doing for my mental health by being an artist? What is this outlet for? A lot of people use it for an escape. Several examples were shown here. And because I grew up as the oldest daughter in a household of a lot of turmoil, I took on a lot of responsibility a lot sooner than I would have chosen to had I known I had a choice or known there were boundaries I could have made earlier, and therefore I have a lot of control issues. So it was kind of, instead of it being this escape, and not that I'm saying that it was for anyone else, but some people use it to avert or suppress dealing with things. For me, it kind of became a utilization of the positive aspects that I gained from that. And that's why I enjoy curation, because any chance where I'm like, hey, I have 60 artists I get to boss around until all this is on the walls. But it was just a very healthy avenue for kind of a more pragmatic, workaholic mindset. It just so happened that instead of being military or in the service industry like the rest of my family, I wanted to draw on walls. With my specific piece, it's more, I've taken on Medusa as a muse for the last few years, and because I'm into reptiles and snakes specifically, my goal is to make I have 3 more paintings of her, but they're all going to have different species as the hair, and that's just so much fun imagery to play with already that I think everyone does like a stone statue of her, or like a very like gothic, and then I'm like, no. She's going to be covered in American traditional, she's going to be bright orange, like it's going to be a fun time. And that's kind of more on the audience side of things, because that character means a lot of things to a lot of different people and a lot of different genders. And then the snakes, because they're scientifically more accurate, it also reaches out to that niche that I've tried to connect to more. And then you had mentioned like connectivity being a really strong source of support for suicide prevention. Well, that is not an avenue that I've traveled down as severely as some very close people in my life. Whenever I do murals, I always host a community paid day to do all the flag cutters, because it's not every day that you get to pack up your things, hit Buc-ee's on the way up, and then go help paint a mural. So I have several friends who I've known. We went to a K through 12 together. Several of them went through like psychosis and physical fights with family and homelessness. And it's been this really amazing, like, unifying thing we get to go through every time, where not only are they, they're helping, and it saves me several hours of work, but they get to kind of connect together and they get to see the physical process. And I think a lot of mental health issues stem from all of it being internal. And so it's a very good, like, external source of productivity and progression and fun.
That this is so important, because burnout is a very real thing that people experience. I know that I have to be really mindful with not just like how I deal with processing these topics, but my workload and all the things that life brings in. I had to come to all of that to make sure that I can, if burnout is deletable, recover as quickly as possible, or just, make a more sustainable path for myself. I think that one of the ways that I am able to achieve that is through somatic healing and therapy regularly. I think that getting inside my body is really important, and especially when it's so easy to feel an absence of the grounding nature that can bring, and it can be so overwhelming, especially in the seasons that we're in. I also find that I gravitate towards abstract art as a way to deconstruct a lot of topics or external pressures from life that are causing my mental health to slip, because it's something that by breaking it down into very minimal visual language through color and form, I could digest it in that space, and I have a sense of control in that space when other things seem so out of reach. And I really love a series of work that I'm doing right now in my studio, specifically triggered by, you know, the pressure for this administration and this need to activate in resistance and figure out what our roles are. There's so many different ways to kind of find your lane when it comes to that, and it looks really different for each individual person and based on our gifts and how we're able to show up and what our bandwidth is and who's relying on us, and all of it should be considered. And so I was kind of asking myself, like, how do I find solutions? How do I find the light? How do I find space for other people to find that light themselves, and to not cast judgment on the different ways people are showing up, or judgment on myself and the way that I'm showing up, to breed sustainability and resistance for community. And so I created a series of work that I'm still actively creating iterations of that explore the transmutation of light and how that can look. It could be smoke or flame, or it could be magma hot, lava, and like intense, and that each form of energy that everyone can bring towards, and that focus that can bring towards the resistance, is going to have its place. And that is just a way of me kind of finding the visual language to exemplify different ways that can look like.
That's so beautiful. Thank you. Tickled by their answers. All right. What responsibility, if any, do you feel as an artist when representing stories tied to mental health or resilience? And Zaida, you said you had a story about this.
I do, and it's in a very similar lane of the focus on the oppression and fear and stigma around non-binary and trans identity. For me, it came from the stigma around just Black existence. I come from a mixed household. My father is a Black man. And to me, that was just kind of a quirky fun fact that I got to bring up until probably middle school or so. It didn't carry the American weight that it does now. And it was when artist Dana Schultz, you know, something like that, but she did a abstract portrait of Emmett Till's open casket funeral. And there was a big controversy over it, and it was the first time I had ever kind of heard the spectacle around Black violence and how the representation of that coming from, or that painting being done by a Black artist means something completely different than it coming from a white artist. And that was the first time I kind of had to sit in, because I knew I had white privilege. I knew that there were things that I could get away with that my dad could dream of doing, even despite being 27 years older than me, being in his 50s now. And so the resilience part is where I take on a lot of that responsibility, because Black beauty and Black women are at the center of all that I do. You look at the Medusa that I did, even though she's bright orange, Kaylee got excited. She's like, I like seeing that big Black woman on the wall. And I was like, yes. And being white passing, especially the white side of it, there was almost this expectation that all the work that I did, and this happens to all artists of color, where like the only art you're allowed to do is activism based on whatever race or culture you are from. And I didn't want to do that, because the only version of that most white people will accept or recognize is if it is about racism or it is about civil rights. There is no room for Black joy in the white perspective. So my job as an artist, and also there are forms of oppression that I'm never going to have to deal with. There are fears that I acknowledge but do not apply to me. They apply to my brothers, they apply to my uncles, but they don't apply to me. They apply to my fellow artists. So my responsibility was that Black joy and Black beauty is at the center of my work, because it is a perspective that doesn't get to be seen and does not get to be celebrated, even if in its most casual forms. It can be something extravagant as a mythical creature. It can be something as simple as just women getting together and braiding their hair, or sitting around a fire, or going to the lake. Because when you go to a museum, you see those scenes, but they're never of Black people, they're never of brown people. So that's always, and just walking that line between privilege and responsibility and using it in a way that helps me understand who I am and the American climate specifically, and understand how I can contribute to my community and the greater art scene as a whole without, and just leaving a lot up to deception, because there's a lot of nuance and a lot of gray area when it comes to the status or identity of mixed people in this country anyway, from both sides. And that's another side of it too, where I'm like, I have a whole exhibition I want to do if you guys like need something next year, but just kind of exploring the policing of mixed people, and specifically like the white passing perspective of it, because it's a very weird box to be in. Thank you.
Kaylee.
You shouldn't.
I could talk about it for like 4 hours.
Sorry guys, my brain is absolute check engine right now. My responsibility, I could feel like I kind of already touched on it in the last question, but just as someone who actively struggles with those things, I have been finding myself as kind of like feeling a little directionless. Honestly, when it comes to like, I struggle with suicidal ideation, but
Do y'all bring your Kleenex?
yeah. I can't remember what I was gonna say. Oh, but listening to other people's stories, specifically artists who have also been struggling with something like that, have been making me feel, in general, just less lonely and a little more possible. Because I don't know, I'm 27 now. I feel like we all know something that was doing something to help me, and that life gets really weird right now. Life gets super weird on top of that, but very weird in general. And like the tools and systems and framework that I've have to create for myself now, in addition to what I have done in the past, thinking like, well, good, I have my tools, been to a lot of therapy, you know what I mean? Like I've got the binders, you know, I've got the tools. And then life and your health changes and your thinking patterns still change, and like turning to other artists has made it feel at least less lonely. It has made me see myself as able to grow older, which is not something I really thought I'd be able to do. I did not see myself being a 20-something at all. I get to be 20-something, and I really hope I get to be 30, 40, 50, 60 something, you know what I mean? So like tapping in other artists, I know, rest in peace, Anthony Bourdain is not with us anymore, but he has some beautiful wisdom to share when it comes to art and community and religion. And I think that as an artist who is taking that and really receiving that and benefiting from that, I do feel like it is my duty to return that. Yeah, it's my duty to return that. And on that kind of like a shifting note, the other side of like realizing why we need to see those things. When I did, this is about Fort Collins Beer Festival, love you guys, shout out to you guys, because y'all were advocating for me really hard for the time. I painted a mural on the Ace Hardware, which is right outside, you go see it, of my friend Tony, who was an older black gentleman. I met him when I first moved here. He was homeless, I'd spit in the street. He's still dealing with a lot of housing and health issues to this day, because it's just that time is eating battle. And I wanted to honor him almost as my uncle by painting his portrait. And there was another building, but they had given us at first to paint one. And that guy was like, at first he was like, I don't know. And I was like, why don't you know? Why are you feeling weird? And basically he said that he didn't want a black man on his building because he thought it was George Floyd. He don't look nothing like George Floyd. All right, and no, right? It's not how it works. And just hearing his disposition, his attitude towards blackness in general, really showed me what the disposition is. And of course that's not everybody, but it is a narrative that exists. It is a narrative that is culturally passed down, and socially spread. And so like that message of resilience and Black joy and beauty, queer joy and beauty is something that must be in the central narrative, because when you take it out of the central narrative, we see how fast that changes. We see how fast a story can change the mindset of a nation of thousands to millions of people. So if I can do one thing as an artist, is to make sure that narrative is there for people to see and continue to re-influence them.
Yeah, please, yes.
Kaylee and I have known each other for several years. We've had some more conversations since you've been up here, and I won't disclose everything we talked about, but I consider myself completely spoiled to be an artist, because I think there's a lot of blame it on neurodivergent, blame it on us all being traumatized, as we've all shared today. We're very honest and we're very open almost too quickly with each other. I was joking not that long ago, like, I don't know how to have normal small talk anymore, because we immediately jump into conversations about passion and trauma and overcoming, you know, a bad festival or the perks of a great festival and things like that. And I think conversations about mental health and furthermore suicide is under that umbrella too. So talk to your artist friends, talk to your passionate friends. If you feel that you live in a bubble where it's either it's going to be overlooked by one side of your community and completely pitied on the other, talk to people in your life who are passionate about what they do and about who they are, because you're going to find a lot less if you are in that brain. Like, I had a friend come help me today and she called it therapy the entire time you were painting. And one of my friends, she's been through a lot, and recently the gallery she works at got shut down, so she's like, I will paint for free, I just need to have that space. So go hang out with your art friends. Go work on a watercolor in their studio and make them show you their old crappy like work from middle school, and just get that time out. Have that time, because it might completely change where you're at mentally. And there are people in my life who I wish had taken that, because they're not here anymore. And if they didn't get a chance to show off their pain because they were surrounded by people they couldn't. And I can guarantee, like, start a conversation with the next time you see someone live painting, and it might completely change your perspective on honesty and really vulnerable conversations.
Thank you. For so much of that resonates with you. When we were trying to do our mural, I don't know where Jeff's at. You're right here. It took us like 10 months just to find a wall, because people are like, oh, you can't put mental health on there, because oh no, what will happen if people have feelings? It was wild, just wild.
Or we would almost get it through, and then as soon as I would say it was partnered with the Alliance for Suicide Prevention, they'd be like, controversial.
Yeah.
But that happens, that's something I did, like when you brought that up, that is a good thing to bring up, because as a white person in Fort Collins, a lot of people don't realize that this happens more often than you think. People think Fort Collins is a utopia that does not have any racism at all, and that is not true. Fort Collins. Yeah, exactly. And when I tell them that, they're like, what? No way, not here. And it's like, no, here all the time, 24/7. It never goes away.
And
that's what,
like, hold the spaces where these messages are meant to be shared. Yes.
Yeah.
But yes, which is why we're here tonight, to have more conversations about it, so that we can break the stigma. So speaking of, how do you think public art like murals plays a role in shifting cultural attitudes around mental health? Eileen, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, and I think there are a lot of different ways to look at it, but I think for me, one of the important things to address is the fact that public space is not a neutral space. Although it's called public, which the word assumes it's for everyone, not everyone feels the same way. There are power dynamics happening, there are people who don't feel safe in certain public spaces, and there are a few people who don't feel welcome in public space. And so that's why disability, like murals, obviously it's like large scale art, it's super visible. So that is like, it's a form of power. And honestly, it's a huge privilege too, to be able to paint and express something in the public space. And I think like visibility and humanizing people, like there are a lot of people out there who don't knowingly have any trans people in their lives, so that all of the information they're getting is through media or through like hearsay, or someone else telling a story about something they've heard. So being able to shift the narrative within the public space and present a different perspective, and specifically the perspective of the person from that lived experience, it humanizes them. It gives people who see it, the message is like, you can be here, like this is for you too, like, you know, you are worth painting extra big, and like we are honoring your presence and your amazingness, you know. So I think the cultural attitude, like for me, a mural is successful if like it can just open someone's mind, like even like 1% to a different perspective on something, where the subject is. So yeah.
Connor, hi. Tell us, how do you think public art plays a role in shifting cultural attitudes around mental health?
I guess, yeah, just you covered a lot of what I was going to say, and yeah, said it so well. But yeah, it's just such a unique medium in that anyone can participate. Having spaces like this are amazing, and we need them. And at the same time, not everyone feels as comfortable walking through a door to get to somewhere. You know, it's something that's just up on the wall, and everyone's seeing it, from, you know, the person who's sleeping on the sidewalk down the street to the person who's driving by with their Cybertruck, you know, and everyone can, yeah, see that and participate in that, almost whether or not they want to. In a way, I think it's really humbling privilege to be able to put in a message like that because of that fact. Yeah, I guess I wanted to say too, I feel like it's already talking about like the integration of mental health. It's already changed my perspective a lot. Just being invited to do this, and then also to be here today. I actually was supposed to paint 2 years ago, but for some organizational issues that didn't happen. So the design I submitted wasn't intended to be under the umbrella of mental health. And I got a message from Chelsea being like, hey, do you think like this could fit under that umbrella, or could Tesla fit under the umbrella? And I thought about it, and I was like, you know, actually it does. And so that's been a journey for me, just kind of coming to that realization, and has really changed the way that I've thought about a lot of my work, actually. And just the reason that I'm painting and then being an artist in general, and kind of coming to terms with the fact that, like, oh yeah, this is something that I'm doing to cope for myself for certain things, but also to get a message out there that I can't in any other way. As some of us were saying earlier. But I hope that more events like this happen, and that people can really see how tied things are, and how much crossover there is, opportunity for personal but also social change through those mediums. Yeah, I think it's really powerful. So honored to be here today. Yeah, where are you there below?
Thank you. As always, please.
So, I don't know if y'all have seen Sinners, but I could talk about it for a long time. But something I loved about that film, it's so funny because I was trying to get Sean to watch it too, and like tell her that it's more action and not scary. Anyway, something I really loved about that movie was the reaction to it within the Black community specifically. I think a lot of artists for the last couple of years, it's so much work trying to humanize ourselves to the dominant community. So like trying to satisfy the like white supremacy system. Like, hey, we deserve to be like recognized as humans, let alone equals, let alone artists, let alone passionate, whatever. Like there's a lot of work has been about that. Like, oh, see, look, this group, Blake, has feelings too. And what I really liked about Sinners was it didn't entertain that at all, but more importantly, the reactions to that film within the Black community it was a lot of looking inward, because while Ryan Coogler doesn't really explicitly say, like, this character represents this thing, conversations were being had that I had never seen be had before, and it was less about evolving our artistry for the sake of satisfying the social norm, and more about being able to critique and reinforce love amongst one another, which was really, really cool to watch play out, like, in real time, scrolling through social media, reading reviews, and especially certain reactions, like our questions that I have about my own identity internally with the Black community. And I think that's a big step. Instead of trying to satisfy a social norm that, especially in 2025, especially with the cabinet we have right now, is not going to accept us, let alone is trying to take back a lot of that autonomy, we need to focus on reinforcing each other and being able to honestly and vulnerably critique each other without calling it something that it's not. So in that same vein, which is kind of the next thing that I want to see more of, is that, where it's no longer boot kissing and playing cool and code switching. It's like, all right, I'm going to turn to you now, because we need to have a conversation before we try and rip this back out there.
And out there was even more scared than an aspen for a while, so.
I mean, a lot of what we're talking about, I mean, we drive by billboards every day, right? And they must work because big corporations, they got a lot of money and throw them out, and they're pandering to what sells. What I love about this, and shout out to Fort Collins Mural Project, is when I applied, you guys not just encouraged authenticity, but you also encouraged not to try and meet that status expectation. And I remember the application process is like, we have enough Colorado flags. do something that represents you as an artist, and do something that is powerful to you so that it can be expressed within the community. So it's a huge honor for, I think, all of us in order to have that large media that is seen by who knows who. And there is power to that, because if back to the very first question we had of what conversations do you hope it sparks? Well, even if it's in an inner dialogue of like, well, maybe I should think about how, you know, this is an underserved community, or this is something I should represent or recognize within myself with more serious words. So thank you to this group for giving some.
From the last question that you asked, like, what do we hope to see with the intersection of community and art? I wanted to acknowledge what I have been seeing. I run an organization called Colfax Cares in Denver. We're going to have Colfax, like 5 points. The big grand goal of it is to get to know your neighbors, and that can be really hard to want to do when you're facing high levels of need and like really varied types of levels of need. And so Colfax Cares, in like the smallest, most attainable way, provides like food, free clothes, hygiene products, access to health and education resources, connects you with local artists. There's live music, there's an art workshop, but it provides those very little things. Like, they're not clothes and food are not little at all. But even just in that way, we can provide them where it'll last you a day or two, or you get an outfit or two. That takes the weight off of somebody's shoulders. It's amazing how it changes somebody's mind. We've had people walk into Colfax Cares ready to fight somebody and leave singing. Like, it's amazing what music does to the human body. It's amazing what you can do when your needs are satisfied, even for a second, so that you can actually tap back into being a neighbor, being a community member, being a person that is not just trying to survive. We have seen some really beautiful relationships. We have seen people shift and change over these past couple of years. And we've seen people go from needing our services to want to help distribute and help us operate our services. So it works when we acknowledge that it is not very connected, and that we need to be able to provide for each other in order to connect and make art and look out for each other. That's what Hey guys, so thank you. So yeah, it is donation based. The best donations that we can take are hygiene products, clothing, little snacks and things that people can like eat right away. That's based at City Records in Denver. You can look all this up. I'm pretty sure if you look up Colfax Cares on Google, you should find us, or Instagram, which is usually what we post. What's going on? If it's okay, I'm gonna plug myself for a second. Okay.
Everybody can take a second to plug yourself.
Yes. Yeah, that's what, yes, excellent. Okay, September 14th, this upcoming Sunday, we are doing a Colfax Cares and Kinship Arts Movement collaborative event. Kinship Arts Movement is more on that art, education, social justice side of things, where Colfax Cares is a little more mutual aid focused, and we'll have a community mural, so anyone can come out, add their piece. We'll have some paint, bring some food. We'll have food, free clothes, hygiene products, live music. It's going to be a real big vibe. So if you want to connect with those things, it's Colfax Cares and Kinship Arts Movement. We're doing some really cool stuff. So thank you guys.
I kind of wanted to add on to the last question first. I really love a thread that I've been seeing talked about all evening about having the community engagement part of actual mural practice. I've been cultivating that in my own practice for the last couple of years. I started by working with Streetwise Arts, which is based out of Boulder, doing some school murals. I worked with 4th and 5th graders. I did a School of the War on another one in Boulder, and that now I'm going to be working with a high school for my most recent upcoming project. It's going to have a lot of community programming as well. I'll be working with the juniors and seniors at the high school to develop a mural next to a community garden that they're starting. And in June, I was able to go out to Harrisburg, PA, and do a 4,000 square foot trail mural in Hall Manors Suites. But we had the Boys and Girls Club come out, and we had 30 volunteers for the Hall Manor community throughout the week work on it, and it was one of the most moving things I've ever done as an artist. It really reminded me of the why I do this, and it was extremely daunting. We did it during a heat wave, and it was just a huge amount of square feet to cover with 103-degree weather on concrete. And I was concerned about my volunteers and their well-being as well. And everyone showed up in such an amazing way. But the community that we're in is the projects, and there's a lot of violence and a lot of pain, but also a lot of processing of that during that week. And one of my close, consistent volunteers, this woman Maria, who I kind of became like her daughter that week, and she was kind of like my adopted mom. And she came in with a very closed off and kind of shuttered view of her future. There was just a lot that she had overcome, and there wasn't ever the space with all these needs that she had that were met to dream up something beyond for the next 50 years of her life. Has 50-year-old moment that she was in that moment that we were meeting. And she left that week telling me that she wants to find love, and she had all these aspirations and dreams, and the tonal shift was beyond anything that I could ever dreamed for that experience. I didn't even think that was going to be like a point of connection or something that was going to be so rewarding for me, as well as like the kids that were for the Boys and Girls Club, and some of the kids that were just kind of adopted by the staff of that event because their caregivers were overwhelmed, and they found trust in us to kind of pull those 10-hour days with them, kind of, toting along. We would have them clean our brushes or even work on some of the pieces when there was time and space for that. And it brought a lot of media into the community as well, which I thought was a good point of awareness, because they need more than just the art that we're bringing in that moment. And overall, it was just like a true testament to getting inside of your body. The art that we were making was abstract, it was colorful, it was a lot of fills, but it was labor-intensive physical work. And so something about that repetitive motion and that tapping in and slowing down can provide a sense of meditation for someone who might not be able to meditate in a traditional way. If the voice are too loud, or it's just sitting in silence, it doesn't take you there. Movement and repetition will.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna wrap up.
But I do want to give you all an opportunity to plug yourself, and then I'm going to tell you about a quick mental health resource. It'll be so fast, I swear. All right. Any plugs, please?
I do have one. So I'm a Halloween baby, and being the workaholic that I am, I'm doing an event for my birthday, kind of. I'm going to be doing a double creature feature of Snakes on a Planet Anaconda on October 24th. We will have animal ambassadors there as well as a local pop-up market. So if you find Denver Art Noodle on Instagram, that's me. Tickets are live and it'll be a fun time. We have a private chef doing all of the concessions, so we'll have some fancy popcorn as well. And if I do it right, my 6-foot boa should be one of the smallest animals there. So it'll be a fun time. Please come in costume. So October 24th down in Santa Fe Arts District.
I'm sweating.
That's what it's for, though. That's what it's for.
Anybody else? No. Yeah, please.
I don't have any like personal events coming up, but I would like to give a plug to making art that does not require anyone's permission, because that, especially now, moving forward, is so important. We are living in a increasingly oppressive state, and I think that while murals with permission are great and have a good positive impact, we also cannot limit owners to what building owners will allow us to make.
Thank you. Yes. All right. My plug is that we have our annual gala on September 30th. It's at Sweetheart Winery, and we have Dr. Corey Wong, who is all about liberation, psychology, and abundance. It's not the right word. She sells herself as, promotes, that's the word, promotes herself as I can't remember now, philosophical comedian. That's what it is. So come on over. It's going to be great. The resource I wanted to tell you about in our community is our Larimer County Behavioral Health Urgent Care Unit. It is out on Trilby, on the crossroads of Trilby and Taft, out over by our dump. It is a free mental health urgent care center, so it is open 24/7, 365. If you ever find yourself in need of a therapist, if you're ever in need of detox medication management, you're with somebody you just don't know what to do, this is a free place where you can walk in 24/7 and say, we need help and we need it right now. We're going to go, great, have a seat, we're going to get you somebody. If you can't get to the center because it's all the way out there on that side of town, they will come to you. We have behavioral health workers who will come to you and do an on-site assessment and come and make sure that you're bubble wrapped and taken care of. And if you need to, you will get transported there. I also want to share about the Colorado Mental Health Hotline 988. So previously it has been branded as the Suicide and Prevention Lifeline. They stopped doing that because for whatever reason the word suicide freaks people out. Turns out you can use this hotline and you don't have to be suicidal. It is for people who are having a hard time and needing a little extra support. It is your mental health professional in a back pocket. If you're worried about somebody, if you have questions or need resources related to mental health issues, 988 is your go-to person. Text and call is available as well as chat. Thank you. I'm going to turn it back over to you, Jess, to wrap us up. Oh, before we do that, I just have to say, can we give them a round of applause? Thank you, guys. So, I want to say, scan that QR. That will take you to all the mental health murals that we are doing this year. Plus, we are documenting mental health murals from the past 10 years of FCMP. You'll be able to find everybody's mural location, pictures of their work. Right now it's mock-ups because none of everybody's done with their work yet. And it will also has links to all their pages. These are amazing people. Everyone's worth a follow. Go find them, attend their events. Just seeing the amount of labor that people put into community while being underpaid or voluntary is just so commendable. Thank you. Thank you for everything you're doing. Thank you for being here tonight. And then I wanted to talk about plug FCMP and some of our events we have coming out this week. We are in the throes of the Mural Festival right now.
So you can be going around and checking out all the artists. We do have our map live and activated already, so you can see where artists are currently painting. You go around and see it as it's happening. And then tomorrow night, who's gonna say right? Okay. What? Yeah. So tomorrow night we'll be hanging out at Odell Brewery. They partner with us every year and usually try to give our artists little tokens and little spots to kind of find respite and hang out and chat at night. We will be there. We'll have a small silent auction. You'll be able to sit and chat with some of the artists if you want to continue the conversations we're having tonight.
Starts at 5:30.
Thank you. Starts at 5:30. Ends at 8:30. That is an important detail. Friday morning, we will be doing a mental health mural tour. So that will be biking, and we will be starting at the Alliance for Suicide Prevention of Larimer County, which is also the United Way building. Some people might recognize that address a little easier to get to. And we partnered with Spin Bike, so even if you don't have a bike accessible to yourself, Spin will be there to provide you with one. You just need to register for that so we know and have it ready for you. And it usually takes about 2 hours. We'll have some artists talking at the walls. All the walls will at least be there. We'll be able to give you a little backstory about it, whether the artist is available at that one spot or not. And then Friday morning, we'll be doing our, let me skip one more day ahead. Saturday morning, we'll be doing our completed mural project bike tour. So you'll be able to see all the murals that were painted this year, whether they were mental health related or not. And that will start at the front of the garage, which is across from Bakemono, St. John's mural. We will head out from there. That takes about 2 hours. We also have Spin Bike partnering on that one, so like I said, just register. Any donations are greatly appreciated. This is a really hard time for the arts right now. I spoke about it at our fundraiser in the spring, but it was, there's a attack on the National Endowments of the Arts. Like at that time, it was like I was checking the number every day to watch it, unfortunately, grow and grow and grow. When I did my painting for the auction, it was at 350 arts nonprofits that already lost funding. By the end of our fundraiser, because like every other artist in the world, I painted my painting 2 days before the fundraiser. 2 days later, it was at like 575, losing funding. So, and we do have a grant that is in jeopardy based on what's been happening. But we want to continue to provide this great work for our community. We want to continue to be here for the artists, for you, for everyone. And so any little donation really helps. It goes a long way. They also have mental health resources. You will see Lawrence over here. We have free stickers and business cards. And then our board member Ray back here also brought postcards of one of our murals that will also be on the mental health tour. It is a mural of local and famous trans faces. So that's free for all of you guys. Thank you for joining. We all really appreciate it, and I really appreciate you guys putting yourselves out there and being vulnerable. It's not always easy. I know that I'm also one of those people that just dives deep and is like, oh my God, let me tell you everything. But I really appreciate you being here and doing this tonight and not being afraid of this vulnerability in this moment. Yeah, it was very beautiful. It was very, I was back there trying to laugh and cry and like, yeah. Yeah, thank you. Oh wait, Chelsea remembered something I forgot. What? Oh yes, this is also brought to you by the grant through Redline, Arts and Society. They are out of Denver, they're amazing. They do grant partnerships with nonprofits and individual artists as well. And then tentatively November 6th will be closing the Inclusive Excellence Symposium at the Museum of Discovery. So keep an outlook for that, and that could be up longer than one night. It is open to the public, and we'll still have all artists speaking again on their pieces and stuff. Have that as well. I will also work on my public speaking and eating throughout the day, but I am working. Thank you guys.